Welcome back to Off the Schneid. We're taking a look at the New York Jets, talking about their draft needs heading into the 2022 NFL Draft. We'll break down the roster, the depth chart, and all that jazz. You can see the team needs there, the top five, and then the draft capital that they had heading into the draft here. Post free agency, it's pretty much wrapped up. There's still probably some things trickling in here and there, but for the most part, teams are moving their focus over to the draft, which comes in about a month or so. So let's see what they need. We'll start at quarterback. Zach Wilson, obviously their second overall selection last year. He's going to be their guy, like it or hate it, whatever it is. I'm personally, if you watch this channel a lot, I wasn't a big fan of Zach Wilson last year. We'll see what he looks like this year with a year of experience under his belt and hopefully, a quality offensive line, and they can get him a weapon or two in the draft. Joe Flacco comes in to be a backup. I think that was a great move just because he's a quality vet that's been there, done that, seen everything. That was a big thing that I was saying in last year's episodes. They didn't have, I think they had nobody that had played in the NFL, to be honest with you, at all at quarterback. So, who do these guys turn to? And obviously I think they learned a lesson. They bring in, one of the older vets that they could grab, and he still has played meaningful snaps in the NFL fairly recently. Mike White's still there as well, who was a one-week darling in fantasy football, and then that was about it. So we'll move over to the running back. They got Michael Carter, who I really, really like. If you watch this channel, I love Michael Carter. I think he can definitely be a guy, has all the talent to be a three-down back. We'll see if he gets that opportunity. I don't think he does. As you can see in the team needs, I do have a running back, but it won't be somebody that does things like Michael Carter unless they reach for somebody at 10 or one of the top guys fall to them in the early second round, which is very possible. Tevin Coleman's still there. He's getting long in the tooth. They can definitely bring in somebody who can get the job done a little bit better than him, if I'm being honest. Same with Ty Johnson, Austin Walter, not worried about him. Move over to tight end. They brought in Ty Conklin and CJ Uzomah. I think that those are good pickups. They can both do similar things. They can both block. They can both be on the field for 3 downs. Who plays more than the other, I'm not sure, and we'll see how that shakes out. Is it going to be a competition for, who's the starter, who's the backup, or do they both play? I think it'll be, the truth will lie somewhere in the middle there, and they'll both get their reps, and they'll both play relatively meaningful downs. That's how I see it. Move to the offensive line. I've got left tackle / right tackle as the top need for this team. Mekhi Becton's not healthy. He's not fully healthy right now, so that could be an issue. But, long run, he was, 10th overall, something like that? So long run, he's going to be a guy on this offensive line. Hopefully. You really need to hope that he is going to be either right or left tackle on this team. George Fant's still there, and he's good. He's a quality player, and I don't think they do this, but they can cut him and save about $10 million against the cap right now. Not that they're, pressed up against it or need cap space or anything like that. And I do think that George Fant remains on this team, but after this season, this is the final year of his contract. So I think that they could grab a guy who is, a bookend tackle of the future long term, and there's a few of them that should be available at 4. So if one of those guys are there, or Evan Neal, if one of those guys are there at 4, I don't know if they'll be able to pass on one of those two guys that could anchor their offensive line with Mekhi Becton and Elijah Vera Tucker for the next 10 years. And that's a very quality offensive line, again, for the foreseeable future. So yeah, there's a little nugget there. They do have depth though. Greg Van Ruten, Dan Feeney are still there. Drew Samia, Connor McDermott. There's a lot of decent depth guys. Even Laken Tomlinson is more of a depth piece. So they have enough capital that I think that they will grab a guy in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, something like that, to complement the guy that they get higher in the draft, I think. And then that they're going to be set at offensive line, I feel like. Chuma Odega's still there as well. He's another quality depth guy. So they have all the depth, but I think that they could get one more difference maker, whether that's at tackle and or guard. And you could swing that to one of those tackles inside if need be. They'll sort it out, and I think that that's what they do. They grab an early left, right tackle, and an interior guy to hopefully replace Lake and Tomlinson if need be, but they have the depth and competition there to figure out who's the best guy. Move over to the wide receivers. That's another position where they were in, you know, I have it as their fifth, their like lowest need in my list here, but realistically, I think that they target a guy at probably 10th overall. I think that the consensus here is pretty correct with the Jets. A lot of times I'm an anti-consensus guy and I go against it if it doesn't make sense, but here it does make sense. So I think, you know, left or right tackle type of a swing tackle or bookend tackle at 4, and then a wide receiver at 10. I think it just lines up perfectly for this team, for what they need and what's going to be available for them in the draft, you know, come late April there. So I think that that's what's going to happen, and that is the consensus out there. Braxton Burials takes over, you know, for Jamison Crowder as the slot guy. I think that he can get the job done there, and he is quality. I think he's, you know, there's not much of a drop-off from Jamison Crowder, to be honest. I think that there is a drop-off. I do think Crowder is the better wide receiver than Braxton Burials, but it's not extreme, and he can get the job done. He is a little banged up a little often, so they might need to, you know, grab a guy late in the draft, you know, with one of those 5th-round picks or something that you do see as a straight-up slot receiver that can, you know, be as a backup and play if, you know, even just give a spell to Barrios. Maybe he's also your return guy, something like that. Elijah Moore, I really, really like. He should be very good for this team. He's not, you know, a number one. He's not an alpha wide receiver at all, but he can be a very quality number 2 wide receiver and a very quality complementary piece. But they're going to need a guy, and I don't think that Corey Davis is that guy. If Drake London is there for them at 10th overall, I think they sprint to the podium, grab him, plug him in there. I think that Corey Davis's days are numbered in New York anyways. He was signed to this team before this regime came in, and I think they're going to make a change, and as soon as they can, they're going to save that money and probably cut him from this team. I don't know what his contract looks like. I didn't look at it, but I can, and, you know, I'll take a look at it later. Denzel Mims is still there. He's a guy that I did like in the draft. I don't think that this was a good fit for him. I didn't want him to go here. And I don't think it was a good fit, and it doesn't make sense. He's not liking it. It's not working out. They're not liking what he's doing. I think that he's going to, you know, probably be off this team sooner than later. I don't know if they trade him or just, you know, see what happens. Maybe, you know, he's still young enough to improve and he can get there, but we'll see what happens. They do, the depth is not quite there, but if they add a quality, you know, 10th overall, if they add a stud wide receiver, then depth becomes less of an issue because you have Corey Davis there. So that's the offense. Quality enough offense. I think running back is the highest need. Obviously, you can tell there with the team needs on this offense. Outside of the offensive line, I think as far as playmakers are concerned, I think running back is a little more of a need. But like I said, the way that the draft is probably going to line up for the Jets and the way the draft is going to go in real time and in real life, wide receiver is going to be the earlier pick, absolutely likely, like I said, at 10th overall. So let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. This defense needs some help, mostly with getting after the quarterback. And I think that the defensive backs and the defensive line need to work a little more in tandem here to help both succeed. Carl Lawson's going to have to play to that contract. He's going to have to improve. He was hurt 2 years ago right after he signed that contract. Played last year, but, you know, it wasn't nothing to write home about, that's for sure. So he needs to play to that contract, and I think that they need to bring a guy in to push these guys, you know, all of these guys. John Franklin Myers was pretty good. He had, I think, 6 sacks and I think led this team, but he was okay, and he's that secondary guy. He is that secondary guy right now. Jacob Martin comes in, who's still young, played well with the Texans, and he's going to get a shot to succeed here as well. I do like that addition. Bryce Huff is there as well. Jabari Zuniga is a guy that I've always kind of liked, and you know, hopefully he can chip in as well. But if Carl Lawson isn't that guy, they're going to need a guy to be the guy type of a thing. So we'll see how it shakes out, and it is a need. Bradley Anai is still there as well. He's a little bit undersized, but there you go. Sheldon Rankins and Quinnen Williams are both very good. And Solomon Thomas, actually, he can double as a defensive end in a pinch if you need. So he can help out there as well, but I do like him better in the interior as an interior pass rusher. I think he can be more successful in that role, especially for a defense like this 4-3. Let's move back to linebackers. I think that they're actually in a reasonable spot. CJ Mosley is very good. Quincy Williams was a pleasant surprise. I really like him out of college coming into his draft. I thought that, it's weird with the Jaguars. They've had a lot of good linebackers, in my opinion, that they just haven't found. That's another story for another day. Watch the Jaguars episode if you want to talk about that. But I like Quincy Williams, more of a run stuffer, tackler type of a guy, a little bit of a liability in pass coverage, but he's still young enough, and he's finally getting an opportunity, so he can improve there. And I think he will, but we'll see if he does end up playing every down. To be honest, I don't think he quite gets there. But Jamin Sherwood, who's quite quick, he can play in that role. A guy that didn't really play that much last year. It was a former safety, Hamza Nasrilladeen. I think that he is that guy that, covers tight ends, covers running backs in the passing game, that sort of a thing. At least that's what they wanted him to be when they drafted him. So he could be that guy in nickel and dime packages, sort of a thing. Corner, I think, is a big need for them. I think they have a lot of quality depth guys and a lot of, a number 2 in DJ Reed that they just brought in from Seattle. He's not a number 1. He's listed as the number 1 corner right now for this team. He was the number 1 with the Seahawks last year. He's quality. He is a good number 2 corner, and he can do a lot of good things. I do like DJ Reed, but he's not that, top-notch shutdown corner that I think that this defense could really, really use. And that might be what they end up selecting, 35th or 38th, something like that, depending on who's there. I think that they could add potentially two corners to help out this defense and just make sure that you have the best, unit possible out there. And so they do have, like I said, DJ Reed, Brandon Eccles. Brandon Eccles played well last year. Very good, pleasant surprise. 6th round selection in last year's draft. I think that was a very pleasant surprise, and he's just another one of he might be that alpha number 1 corner, but we're not sure yet. We'll have to see another year of proof in the pudding to be able to name him that. Jason Pinnock was drafted before him last year. He's okay. Javelin Goudry, I do really like as a nickel corner. Michael Carter II, he's there as well. Bryce Hall, a lot of depth, a lot of, guys that can do a few things good, but not everything very, very well type of thing. Like I said, they don't have a number 1 corner, in my opinion. Their best corner is probably DJ Reed, and in my opinion, he's a number 2. So I think they definitely add a guy in the draft. It's a high need, in my opinion. They could even take one in the 1st round there with the 4th or 10th overall selection. I wouldn't be surprised one bit. Safeties, last but not least, are in a pretty good spot, in my opinion. They brought in Jordan Whitehead from the Buccaneers. LaMarcus Joyner's still there as, again, a nickel and dime packages type of a guy. And Ashton Davis, as long as he can stay healthy, I really like. And I think he can do a lot of good things and be a leader for this defense, to be honest, for a long time. I think he can be that guy as long as, like I said, he can stay healthy. So there you go. There's your breakdown for the New York Jets. Draft needs, draft capital. They have all of their selections inside the top, we'll call it 163, which is pretty impressive. That's a lot of depth. They can move up and down if they want. They got a lot of options here, and they can add a lot of quality players for right now and for set themselves up for the future. So this is a team to watch. I love the coaching staff here. They have a lot of good pieces. As long as Zach Wilson is that guy and they can have a good draft this year, then I think that they can make some noise, not this year, but in the future. So there you go. Let me know what you think in the comments. There's your draft needs, depth chart, team breakdown for the 2022 New York Jets.